Welcome to the New Discovery Christian Podcast, where you'll find Bible messaging and sermons that will encourage, uplift, and challenge you to a godlier life. Join our community and become inspired to continue living a God-directed life.
Welcome back to the New Discovery Podcast in Hernando. We're going in on our fall season now, and we started looking through what our next topic was going to be, and we felt like the next hot topic and something that a lot of teenagers were talking about and suggesting to us, and me and Javen got talking, was social media. There's a lot attached to social media as a teenager, as a young adult, and honestly, even as an adult. And we're going to try to tackle this conversation to be balanced. We're going to try to be fair. We're also going to try to take our perspectives and our use and our experiences with it. And also, how does Scripture tie into this, and how can that be a principle for us to navigate this terrain? So, yeah, some social media. What you thinking about that, Javen? You're kind of right there in that age. I mean, you're still 19,
Yeah, social media is like a big part of my life. I don't know one day where I've not was looking at social media. It's kind of scary if you think about it. Like,
what do you mean a big part of your life? What do you mean?
I don't know what I'd do without Snapchat and Instagram. It's just my main little, how I communicate with friends, my buddies. Like, I don't really text anymore. I use Snapchat, Instagram.
Really?
Yeah. And for like maybe people that I work with, like people from Kroger, they'll text me. That's usually the only text I get. I usually just Snapchat my friend if I want to get in touch with them.
Oh. So is that kind of like the group me, where we have, we have a couple, we have a group in church and we kind of.
That's kind of like that, but isn't that like a
It's
texting
not social
app?
media though.
Yeah, it's not really social media.
Okay. Is it different than that, or is it similar? I've never used Snapchat. I've snapped 2 girlfriends in the past, and that's actually really it.
I think Snapchat, for me, it's cooler because you can take a picture while you're talking to somebody. I mean, there's kind of like that in there. But I think group chats are kind of easier with Snapchat because, like how we have to use GroupMe because some people have Androids. Yeah. Well, in Snapchat, it's all just seamless because everybody's using Snapchat on the app. But that's one aspect of it. But if you think about it, we're the first, like back in the 90s, social media didn't exist.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you're right.
And before all that, just communication and how we socialize was like different. And we're in kind of like a strange time where we're being handed a new tool to us and we're being taught how to use it. And we don't really know what the future is going to be like with this tool that's been invented and we're all getting to take part in. And it's
like an experiment.
Yeah, it is an experiment.
Yeah.
We're kind of like that generation that we're going to see how we turn out in 50 years, and they're going to be like, yep, these people were highly sociable on these platforms, and look how they are now. Like, I imagine some people in 50 years are going to be kind of awkward, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me, I actually brought this up. Actually, I didn't use your name when I was in class, but you came up in a story. I remember we were talking, I think you were still in the youth group, and I was taking you home or something. I don't remember. Some kind of context, I was taking you home. And I remember this came up. It was a story actually about Zach, actually, is in a way is going to make it into this podcast. It was a story about Zach. And he asked a girl out at a store that we're eating. It was like some kind of nice health food store or something like that. You go in there and you microwave your food and stuff, and you sit down. It was actually kind of cool in there, very California-esque. I mean, you sit on couches. There's not even tables in there. It's couches, and you sit there. And she even came over there and started talking with us when we're eating our meals. So it was kind of cool. It went out of business, though. I kind of see why. I mean, you're microwaving your food. But anyway.
What was this place now? It was
in South Haven, but the whole thing of the store is me and Zach wanted to try this place out. It was kind of new, health food, like salmon or something in there. You heated it up and you sat down on these couches.
So it was like a millennial shop, kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds very millennial.
It was giving off those vibes. There's no doubt about that. It was giving off those vibes. Yeah. But we talked with her, and, she was kind of cool and everything like that. And we left, and Zach's like, I kind of really, really liked her. I almost thought about asking her out. And I said, why didn't you ask her out, man? He's like, well, that's kind of too late. We're heading. I was like, dude, because I was driving him. We were carpooling. We're in the same car. I was like, dude, I could turn around in a heartbeat and go back and, go ask her out, man. I mean, we just talked with her. I mean, what's the worst? She could say no. He's like, good point. We turn around and he goes and asks her out. And I remember telling you that. And I remember you said people our age wouldn't do that. Do you remember that conversation we had?
I kind of do, and I can go back to that. For me, I don't think I have or any of my friends have ever asked a girl out. Can you believe that?
In person?
In person. It's always been through the means of Snapchat. And it
Wow.
this is how it will kind of be. You'll follow them on Instagram. This is how it works.
Because I really don't know a lot about this.
You're a little
honest. I
older
really
than me.
don't, yeah.
You were the generation that Instagram just came out, I think, when you graduated. So you were kind of...
I was 11th grade when it came out.
Yeah, so you were
Yeah.
almost done. So it was
Yeah.
kind of... It came out for me, like, I had Instagram...
Middle school, I'm guessing?
I think I got it, like, at the end of 7th grade or maybe 8th grade.
Oh, yeah, that's in the prime of teenager.
In the prime, yeah, right at the start. And what were we saying?
We were talking about people your age would never do that, ask a girl out in person.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so...
And this is why, as vividly, I remember this, because I remember you saying something along these lines.
So, yeah, like, there's no, like, real time going up to them and saying, hey, would you maybe want to go hang out sometime? It's more of you like their picture, or you follow them first, they follow you, you like 3 pictures of theirs, they like 3 pictures of yours. That's how... Is this blowing your mind?
Well, it's kind of making me think of some girls that have
they-
liked my photos, and maybe this has been
Yeah.
happening, but I didn't know about it on Instagram. Because I was like, why did they
Oblivious
like?
Kyle.
Yeah, because I was like, I just like their photos.
Did you
if it's
DM
cool.
them? Why are you liking my pictures?
Yeah, well, some of
I
them
don't
are
know
sending
you.
messages to me, and I think it's kind of like,
Oh.
and see, I don't
Pool
get
game,
that
Kyle.
sync that they like me. I'm just like, oh, they're just sending me a message, I guess. So, like, see what I mean? There's a disconnect with me with that whole functioning, what's going on there, because in my mind, I'm thinking I need to go ask a girl out in person, not ask her out on social media.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think it's all like very not ingenuine, but it feels so artificial to do it. It feels like the emotion, I don't know, it just doesn't feel...
Well, I'm not
doesn't
saying,
feel
I'm
right.
not quite saying it's wrong.
Yeah, it's not
That's
wrong.
not what shocked
but
me.
like
It's
it
when you
doesn't feel
said-
as magical. It's like kind of like, I mean...
But see, and I've really had to think about this. I mean, this
Yeah.
has been years, man. This was years ago that we had this discussion. I mean, I think you were probably 16, maybe 15.
Yep.
I was probably your
Sounds
age
about right.
when this happened. So I remember that conversation. And what scared me wasn't that people are doing this necessarily. I mean, I've gone on some dates and it was online dating. I didn't see a big problem with it as a outlet. But what scared me was,
Well,
is
you use
said,
dating apps, right?
I have in the past. I'm not doing it right now, but that's kind of another discussion.
Gotcha.
Maybe a dating podcast.
I'll sweep
we'll talk
that back
about
under the rug.
Yeah, I'll save those discussions for a dating podcast. We'll come back to it. But one thing that scared me was when you said, "I think people my age are incapable of asking a girl in person." Now that is scary. Not that you do ask people on Instagram. I mean, it's kind of a gray area. I mean, it could be okay, but if it's a we're doing that. We're asking them on social media because I'm too scared to contact people in person. That's a problem. I think that's a problem with guys and women generally. From what I know, I'm not a woman myself, but most girls want you to ask them in person because that shows confidence in that guy being able to break the ice. I mean, that's kind of a manly thing to have, whether or not it's dating or not, to have confidence in who you are and what you do, and even to take a rejection. You have to have confidence under you and you need to be okay with yourself. On social media, you don't really get that. You don't really get that. If they say no, it's just no messages. You don't have to confront that.
Yeah, it takes the risk out of it because you can contemplate what you're going to say right before you ask the girl out. So you can say something super smooth, and it takes the fast time reaction out of, like, say, asking a girl out in real life. Like, you can think of, oh, maybe I'll look up a pickup line, and you're kind of cheating in a way because it's not really. I've seen
that's not what you do with other relationships.
Yeah, you don't.
do that.
You don't think for 10 minutes before you reply, and that's what Like that's a benefit we're given with social media, texting, yada yada yada. We're given that time to think of a reply. In real life, we can't do that. We have to think on our feet. Bam, bam, bam. Reply. Because if we just do this, it's like
do that in a dating relationship for 10 minutes.
Yeah,
in person,
they're
going to
be
happens.
like, no.
Yeah, it doesn't allow you to have that practice.
It's a new dynamic, and I think it's like affecting a lot of guys these days. And I'm gonna be honest here, it's affected me. Like, when I was 16, 15, I didn't really know how to just approach a girl and talk to them.
Yeah,
and I'm still learning today. But back then, I just copied what all my friends were doing, and I would either add a bunch of girls on Snapchat and start a streak with them.
See, I don't even know what that is. Can you describe that?
Okay, yeah.
Because there may be some people my age who
educate
don't
ya.
really understand that. They're not so much in tune with Instagram. And
So this is a Snapchat feature. A streak is basically when you send a snap to someone every day and it starts a streak. And it you can see how long your streak has been with this person. So say you've been talking to a girl for 3 months. Well, it's going to say like you have a 90-day streak, 90-something day streak, something like that.
okay,
And that's how everybody did it in my eyes. So that's how I did things. And I would snap girls that I thought were pretty attractive, and that's how everybody was doing it around me. So I thought, hey. And so I started doing that, but it's a totally, totally different world than real life, like going up to girl and getting to know them and talking to them.
breaking the ice.
Yeah, and honestly, for now, at this point in my life, I don't do that anymore at all on social media. In fact,
You're talking about like the DMs?
Yeah,
what was it?
Like trying to pick up girls on Instagram and Snapchat. Like I'll be goofy sometimes, but I won't ever mean it. Like just this past summer, as kind of a prank, I like this is really beside the point. I don't know why I'm going into this, but
Hey, I like stories. Everyone else does
I wanted
on
to
here,
see.
I'm sure.
I wanted to see if this would actually work and if anybody would actually bite off this.
Yeah.
I got 20 of the university's finest sorority girls, and I sent them a DM, and it was like a really cheesy pickup line, and I was like,
How'd you find them, by the way?
I wonder, the sorority girls?
Yeah.
They're on your search page.
Oh.
On Instagram. Did you know about that?
No.
It's basically
I'm learning something new.
people
today.
you may know. Okay, so people you follow,
Yeah.
they're friends with them. So it's kind of like,
Okay, so someone you know was following them. Is that the area
so
where
it's
it
like
says
you might know them.
reference or
it's that
related or
page.
something, and it says follow? It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I know what you're talking about.
So I
Okay.
conducted myself a little experiment, and I used, I think the pickup line was, man, oh man, this is cringe. Prepare yourselves. This is cringe.
Cringe alert.
This is
here.
cringe. This is cringe. It said, ma'am, do you know how fast you were going? It was in the context of like a cop. Like the whole thing was like a cop.
Yeah.
Ma'am, do you know how fast you were going? I'm gonna need your license, registration, and your Snapchat. And guess what? No one replied.
I wonder why.
I wonder why. But
Oh.
I was just gonna see if any of that would work.
If that would-
you
if
see
that
that you see
extreme
that
would
on
happen.
iFunny and stuff, like some of that like does work, and it's like how. But anyway, I was just trying to be goofy on it. But yeah, where were we even going? I'm digressing so hard.
I was bringing up with you about how the way that people message each other to actually get like dating, or they know that they like each other.
Yeah.
On because I asked you like, how does that even work with the DMs and like social media and Snapchat and stuff like that? And
Yeah.
How does that dynamic even work? Because I'm not because it came up from I'm not that in tune.
I think
with it. I don't do that.
Snapchat is bigger than it was when I was 16. Like, I follow younger people, and they do that app. It's called the YOLO app. That's what I see a lot of today. I've never used it.
Is it like iFunny?
It's where you anonymously say something about the other person, and and they get to read what you say, but they don't know it's you. So it's another wall you can hide behind. And I see.
So it's like leaving a note in class.
Exactly.
And it says, "I love you." But
I didn't even think of it like that.
Okay.
That is exactly what it is.
mind.
But you're not signing your name. You just know that somebody wrote that about you.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of these girls doing these YOLOs, and some of them get pretty crude.
Oh wow.
And then most of them will be like, "Hey, I think you're kind of cool. I think you're kind of hot." That's mostly what they're. And the girl will usually reply, "Slide up." And when you slide up, you say who you are and which one you said, and that's usually how it works. But that's now I'm seeing that wasn't around when I was 16. That's a new outlet of kind of picking up girls per se.
Yeah.
With the younger generation. I guess Gen Z.
Yeah.
Because Gen Z is millennial. What's the year? I think millennial stops at 96, and then Gen Z.
No, millennials goes into 2000s.
Are you sure?
Yeah, millennials goes into 2000s. Yeah. What the breaking point is when there's a year with Gen Z where I only know the determining point. It's in the early 2000s, but what it is has this person always had electronics and media around them for their entire life? I don't remember what year that is though. But you've always been around computers. The internet has always been a part of your life.
Yeah, I was on the computer at like 2 years old. There's a picture of me in a diaper working. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I was playing computer games when I was 2.
Well, computers have been around since the 1980s, though, too.
Yeah.
But were computers a part of your daily life? See what I mean? There's
Oh.
toddlers growing up today
Now that's
who
a
have
different
tablets in their face.
So you're saying that's a different generation?
Yeah,
than
so
us.
the generation, when they're born, they are surrounded by iPads, iPhones, and Xbox in the face. Now, I had Xbox and stuff like that, but there's a year where it's a domination, like it's integrated in your life. Does that make sense? I don't remember what year that is. I had to look at what it is. But you're a millennial. You're definitely a millennial with our age gap. Zach's a millennial as well, because millennials goes from somewhere of I know millennials for sure are 18 to 30 something for sure. Those are millennials age. But getting into the middle of teenager, especially past maybe say 13, it's a question mark. I think that's getting very close, especially kids who are in 6th and 7th. I'm very confident that they are Gen Z. They're not millennials.
Yeah.
So that's a couple years behind us.
That's
the next one's coming are Gen Z though.
Yep. And
So
I think we may be evolving in like a mental, like social interaction kind of sense. Because this other generation, I'm just going to be honest now. I know this is a generalization, but from what I see younger people, and this is going to sound so like I'm an old person, but they are very into their phone. I'm not going to lie. They're really into their phone. And if you got them, took away their phone, they would be stunned and they can't have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Now, there's people that are going to be outgoing. There will always be people that are outgoing that can deal without that. But most of these kids, that's how they communicate and that's how they socialize with one another, through these social media outlets. And
it's a crutch.
And I was saying this the other day to you. I think I said this on that podcast we deleted, actually. Okay, so I was getting out of work, and there was a group of friends outside in the parking lot. So I joined the little circle, and we started talking. And I guess there was nothing left to say, or there's a little lull. Everybody simultaneously got out their phone and looked at it and started messing around, and it was really weird because everybody did it at the exact same time. It was like
a cue in their brain,
instinct. It was like, and I thought about that. And I was like,
silence, phone,
silence, and it's a good way of not being awkward. I mean,
it's a crutch for awkward situations.
Exactly.
I think that's what it is.
I mean, I'd rather want to be
and not dealing
looking
with
at my
silence.
phone than like. And I've noticed that some friends that I have won't say the conversation is kind of getting stale, they won't bring up something new. So, how's this been doing in your life? How's this? And they won't bring up those new conversation starters, and that's how those moments start. And then you're just on your phone because the conversation's over. And
they don't get practice in open questions of, hey, you know, how did your week go, or how did that podcast go, or something like that, where it's very open. That's, you know, those are easy. But if you don't get that practice, like you're saying, what your crutch becomes is a phone. It doesn't become, let me get better at open questions with people, where I can keep dynamic conversations going back and forth. Where this is a active conversation, because we're throwing open questions to each other and we're both actively keeping it engaged. And this isn't just a podcast.
It's hard work, honestly, if you think about having a conversation, because you constantly have to be on your toes thinking about what you're about to say.
You got to be listening to the other person. You got to
be listening, and you got to be able to hop on or to connect the dots with what the other person is saying.
Right.
And what you can.
You're engaging. I'm engaged. Like, we're engaging with each other in here.
In eye contact.
In eye contact.
That's a thing that doesn't happen these days.
Yeah.
Like, some people, and I'm going to admit, when I was 14 or 13, I was actually pretty scared to make eye contact with people. Like, I guess it was because I was not insecure, but unconfident. So I didn't want to, like, look someone in the eye, and then I would, like, go like this a lot. Or, like, I don't know. It was like, I just had a weird phobia of looking people in the eye. Did you have that when you were a kid?
Yeah, and I think in a way, I think this is how this engages with our conversation, because I was watching a documentary about adults and teenagers on how there's actually so they had an experiment. So let me just explain the experiment, because this will help everyone in their mind and how they see it and remember it. This is how I remembered it. So they did an experiment with how people perceive them. And what they did was they hooked up electrodes to their brain to check the different areas of their brain and what's engaged and what's not engaged, and it had to do with anxiety levels. So what they did is they had this little shop, and they emptied out the front. You know how there's usually mannequins in the front, they have clothes on or something like that, and so they put a screen in the back. And so they took everything out. So a screen comes down, and they have a chair, and they're sitting there, and there's a thing of glass across, so people can look in and see you. So you're just sitting there on a chair, and people can look in,
and
you
can't see. You can
see them.
Oh, you can see.
You can see them.
Oh, okay.
And so what they did is the people in the chairs didn't know that the people doing the experiment hired people to come up to the front of the glass and look at them and poke and things like that. They weren't really laughing, but they were kind of like engaging with them, and they were definitely looking at them, and they're just kind of like wondering what they're doing, you know. So they did teenagers and adults, and they noticed that the teenagers their anxiety levels and their brain waves was hypersensitive. I mean, it was like, and then you notice their eye contact is all over the place. They won't look at the people that are engaging with them. They don't smile with them, and you could tell they're sweating. So they even put electrodes under their like armpits to check, and they're sweating.
Gosh.
They're intense. They're turning red and everything.
No,
but
I can
the
relate
adults,
to that.
you know, the adults were not as, like, you know, it raised because people are looking at you, but they were smiling with them. They kept eye contact. They're just like, you know, it's just an experiment. It's whatever. So some of this is, because this didn't have to do with social media necessarily, but some of this is when you're a teenager, you're not confident in yourself because you don't have a self-identity yet, and you're still putting that together, so you don't really know who you are. Because when you're confident, you know who you are, and you're like, it doesn't matter what these people think, because this is who I am, and that's not going to change. So who cares what they think in this area? Whereas adults generally are more confident in that, and teenagers aren't. But I think what's happening, though, is entering this conversation is it's leaving a crutch to where teenagers cannot get out of that in teenage and be confident in who they are and to engage in those.
It's like a learned helplessness.
A learned helplessness, yeah. That's what I was thinking when I saw that experiment and what you're talking about right now. So some of it's natural, but there's a crutch going on what you're talking about, which is I don't think it's helpful. I don't think it's healthy.
Yeah, you know what helped me a lot growing up? I got super nervous. I mean, everybody gets nervous for a job interview, but I was pretty nervous for that when I was going in. And I've got to say, working at Kroger, being a bagger, when I just turned 16, I became a bagger at Kroger. And I remember the first few weeks were tough because I was very conscientious about my social interactions, and my face would turn very red. My blood pressure, I could feel, would go higher, like you were saying on the experiment, whenever I would have to say like something simple, like have a good day.
Yeah.
And I would worry about that before I came into work. And now that I think of it, why was I worrying about that?
Yeah.
What was causing me to have anxiety over a simple interaction with a customer? What was doing that?
Simple social gestures.
It got so bad that when I was moved to a cashier about 8 months in, it got so bad to where I had nightmare. I've never told people this. I would literally have anxiety nightmares at night from maybe I would linger on a mistake I had that day, like giving somebody the wrong change or accidentally saying, like, I'm the guy that says, you know those awkward encounters where you say, all right, have fun, and then you say, gosh, no.
I'm listening to you. I think I see where you're going.
You know when you're awkward when somebody like...
Are you talking about when someone's like leaving and you say something?
You say something,
like,
you too. Okay, yeah, the you too thing. That's what I was trying to say. Like, have fun, you too, when
and it's not in context.
And then you're like, oh,
yeah,
cringe.
I know
That
what
was
you
awkward.
mean.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would have anxiety, like dreams about being a cashier those nights. It was so strange.
Oh,
and
after the fact or before?
After that, after my shift, and I think a part of it was my subconscious or something. Something was like, and I don't know what was doing it. I'm not like that now, of course.
Yeah.
But when I was 16, that was about when I was 16 or 17, that happened to me, and I was like, what is doing this?
I've been doing some study on dreams lately, and dreams, it's very complicated, but one of the things is your subconscious is more alert to everything that's going on. Your conscience is very hyper-focused on certain things. So your subconscious, it picks up on things, and it throws things into your dreams to alert you to things that you're overlooking, either non-intentionally or intentionally overlooking.
Dude,
that's creating like stress. You know what we talked about when you're not doing your responsibilities and things, and it's like a scratch in the back of your head?
Yeah.
It's like your subconscious is scratching the back of your head and saying there's something that you overlooked when you're dreaming. So that's what I feel like it is, what you're talking about. I mean,
you hear something else crazy?
What?
About, now that you've said dreams, I'm going to go ahead and share this. I was struggling. I'm going to be pretty private about this because, I mean, I don't want to say all the details, but I was struggling, or I was trying to look over an issue that I was dealing with last year, and I didn't really want to come into terms with it because I didn't really like the consequences of coming to terms with it. And guess what kind of dreams I was having off and on? Like, I'd have probably about 3 dreams every week about this one thing. Yeah. And what's crazy is that I didn't realize I was having these type of dreams until Mr. Piercy.
Yeah, Piercy.
Psychology. He said, if you are avoiding a problem, you will have dreams where you're running away from somebody and running away from something. And I had dreams to where I was running away from, I had dreams where I was playing tag and I was always running from somebody and always scared and on the run. I had a dream where somebody wanted to kill me.
Oh, wow.
And I was always running.
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying. The subconscious was picking that up. I was not wanting to come into terms with something. I kept wanting to put it off.
Yeah.
And not face my problems. And it was catching up to me when I was sleeping.
Right.
Which, that's crazy how that works.
I think it's actually, it's kind of interesting, because I don't want it to turn into a dream conversation, because we could probably do it better justice maybe in the future. But when it comes to the whole fact of you knew in a way that it's good for you to get better at those gestures. And here's one thing to give you a little bit of how do I say? You have to fail to succeed. And the thing is that you're gonna fail with those certain gestures that you talked about. Because you'll never take risks. I sometimes fail when I'm saying a goodbye or something like that. And it could be a cue because that person was a little awkward with the goodbye. Like sometimes when I'm saying bye to someone, sometimes it's not very consensual. I don't know how to say it. Like it's like there's still a connection there and you don't want to break it yet. And then sometimes that can put me on hyper alert and then I mess up.
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I mean? You can get
you'll say goodbye too early. Is that what you're talking about?
I could say goodbye too early.
And then you'll still walk out with them?
Yeah.
That happens to me a lot.
Yeah, I don't want to hyper analyze that. But the thing is you just get better at those gestures, whether it's the other person or you, whether they're anxious or not, or whether you're anxious about it. Your anxiety is going to go down as you get used to it. But the only way to do that is to actually just to do it. And then when you do it, you learn from your mistakes. I mean, stating that you're not stating that you at least look at you analyze yourself with your problems. I mean, some people they just deny. If you never get out of that, you can't. But as long as say you're a little open about it, it's like, maybe my hellos and goodbyes aren't that good. Those social interactions, because we're talking about social and the effects that are happening, because someone may be listening to this and saying, what can I do? Maybe I don't know where to start with this. I'm so boiled down in social media. I don't know what to do. And one of the things is start with hellos, start with getting better at goodbyes. It may be actually saying those things. I know.
How are you? Those, and not saying just good. See, that's my bad habit. I just say good. Like, they'll be like, hey, how are you? I'm good. That's a terrible answer. That's such a straight, you should be like, say what's going on in your life. Say how your day's been. Actually say how your day's been when somebody.
I have to admit, I got to get better at that still. If I'm honest,
no, I do too.
I'm still working on that, being more open about my questions to where conversations can flow a little bit more easily, because you don't want to say one-liners that crush the interaction, and then there you are with, what do I do now? So I'm still getting a little bit better at that myself. But people can learn from at least what we're doing too. That's what we're working on.
If you're more vocal, I figured out, and you say what you're feeling, and if you disagree with something, say it in real life. See, most people, if they have a problem with you, they'll just ghost you on social media, and they'll do it in real life too. And if they disagree with you, they just won't hang out with you anymore. But instead of just saying to you, hey, I have a problem with what you just did.
Right.
There's not enough confrontation, I feel like, in my generation.
Yeah.
And there's not enough, people aren't saying what they're feeling. They're keeping it in, and they don't know how to communicate those feelings through words.
That creates what?
Confusion, anxiety. People on both ends.
Right.
In the same generation.
Because then the other person's like, why don't you just be straight up with me, man?
Exactly.
I just want to know.
And they're not saying what they're feeling. Like, there's relationship confusion. Like when the girl isn't saying, I don't like you, but she's still like Snapchatting you or DMing you. It's a whole realm in itself. And by everybody being kind of like clammed up and distant in real life, it's creating just like a cesspool of socially awkward people that are only good on social media. And that's why social media dating, I guess, is growing on the large right now.
It's like you're creating your own world inside of yourself. Instead of this is the reality, this becomes the reality in here. And I mean, all I know is once you start focusing too much on this, what also happens is you start noticing your focus doesn't become, let's be honest here, there's a lot of dark, messed up thoughts and things that can happen inside of us. And when you turn the spotlight on you instead of other people, what happens is you live in that. You live in the confusion. You live in the darkness and the anxiety, and depression's on the rise in the richest countries of the world. Well, why is that? Why are people in Africa and India not the most depressed? Living in literally shacks and sewers. Doesn't make any sense. People in the West, because the focus is turned from out to in. Those people in those other countries know that the focus on the out, maybe, I mean, they're not perfect, like, in Christian, we're supposed to love other people as ourselves, and we're supposed to be looking out for other people. That is one of the 10 things. Jesus says, love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love others as yourself. And when you do that, the spotlight again, with those two commandments, the reflection turns off yourself and it turns to God and other people. So the focus is no longer on my problems, my faults, my mistakes, my failures, and then the focus, not that you overlook those things, but the focus becomes, how can I serve the Lord? How can I look out for other people? And then when that happens, that focus off of yourself, off of the anxiety, off the depression.
And your mental health gets better. So
Yeah.
by God saying that and having that in the commandments, he's not just saying to do that to be a good person. He's
Right.
saying it's
Not
good
some
for your
righteous,
mental
"Ooh, look at
health
me." Yeah.
to worry about other people and care about other people, love other people, how you love yourself.
Yeah.
Because when you're paying attention to everybody, you won't notice the little things, the little awkward, I don't know, saying goodbye at awkward times, like we
Yeah.
were saying. You won't notice that, and I think that's what God could be saying through that. Love your neighbor as thyself.
Well, one thing that I thought about is, I told you not too long about reading a book that has to do, it's called The Listening Life. And it was talking about one of the greatest loves that you can show to someone is to actually love them. And when you're actually listening, there's a difference. Hearing is just sound waves going into your ears, and then you're probably thinking of the next thing you want to say. That's called hearing, and you want to talk about what you want to talk about. That's not engagement. That's not engagement with someone. Listening is what someone is saying is coming into you, and you're engaging with that conversation inside of you, and you're putting yourself inside of that person's shoes and the way they're feeling, the way they're thinking, the best case scenario you can with that. And even neurobiology, one thing that was really interesting was a different book I read. When you're listening to someone or you're even reading, you can do this too. It's the craziest thing. The same areas that the reading's a bit different because you can't put electrodes on a book, obviously, but the emotions and that are involved with that conversation, whether it's happy or joy or sorrow, those same areas light up in the person listening that is telling the story, actually. And so when you're going through a hard time and I'm actually listening to you, the same areas light up in my brain and I start to feel what you feel.
And we connect.
And you make that connection.
Easier to have a conversation with that because
Right.
you're feeling
Yeah.
in your head
Connection
about
is that
what
key word.
exactly
Connecting with people. That's what social media says it actually does. I'm not saying get rid of it because I have it. You know?
It's a tool. It can be used
It's a tool.
it can be used to kill somebody or it can be used to fix a car, like a wrench.
Right.
I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're right.
And yeah. What was the point you were just going to make? I was going to add to that.
Oh, yeah. The main thing I was saying about that was it's empathy. So we talked about engaging with other people. When you have eye contact, eyes are the window to the soul. You have eye contact with someone, something's happening. Whether it's a friendship, whether it's someone, it's an acquaintance, and you give them eye contact, give it a couple seconds, you'll feel connected with people. Because there's some people who they walk around with their head to the ground or their head so far into the phone, and they don't feel connected with people. There's a depression epidemic in this country, and people feel lonely. You're not connected to people. You can start with eye contact. That's a good start to, you want to start little. Let's not go crazy and you start going out someplace and you get disappointed, You go out to these crazy parties or you go out to these other huge social events and you go so big, you're going to be like, I don't want to do this. Man, start with some eye contact. When you see someone, maybe give it a couple seconds, eye contact off. You see another person, give them a couple eye, and that also creates trust too, because when you're looking away, it's like, do they have something to hide? Can I trust them? Maybe they don't want the best for me. And that also opens up conversations that can happen with those people. I'm sometimes amazed just by that eye contact. Either I'll say something or the other person says something, and then I met someone new, just eye contact. And then it allowed that comfortability, that trust level, just eye contact of, okay, that person, he gave me a little bit of eye contact. I can trust that guy. But that person who's looking off to the side, maybe they're looking at, maybe it's some kind of way subconsciously it's like maybe there's some kind
Because
of
when
way
you lie, you don't want to look the person
you
in
don't
the
want to
eye.
look away. Maybe they're being
Because
deceitful.
you don't want to connect them to what's going on.
Right.
So you're looking away, and that's what a lot of people do. Because people have little tics when they lie.
Yeah.
As a kid,
They can't keep eye contact. That's a huge thing with
some
police
people have like
negotiators.
habits, like they'll do little like weird habitual habits when they're lying. Like they'll either not look you in the eye, they'll play with their hair, they'll have little things like, you're doing that, I know you're lying.
Yeah.
You're smiling. I would always smile when I lie.
or
I would look
the
like a
eyes are
clown.
going back and forth, and they don't want. Yeah, eye contact again. The eye contact is huge.
Huge.
Yeah, and when you're listening to someone and you keep that eye contact
And
instead
it's a
of
skill too. You have to work on it.
You gotta
have to
work
build-
on it.
You have to
That-
build up.
that's a
And
good point.
I had to work on it. I think getting thrown into the real world, the workplace at Kroger, really taught me certain social skills that are valuable. Like now that I look at them, because I would honestly have kind of, like you were saying, like my anxiety levels would like go high if I was talking to a manager and looking him in the eye. But now when I see a manager, I can have a real conversation with them and look them in the eye, and I couldn't do that when I was 16. And so I've built up to that, and it's a skill that's really like treasure to me, because now that I know how to look someone in the eye and to have a real conversation, it shows them that, one, like you were saying, trustworthy. Two, I'm confident because I'm staring you in the eye and I am confident in what I'm saying. Oh, and when you're in a job interview, think how priceless that is to have that, staring them in the eye and being confident about what you say.
building
You're going to get
trust
that
with
job.
your
You're not
future
going to get it if
managers.
you're kind of like
Right. Yeah.
like eyes darting all like not. You're going to look like a crackhead, dude.
Yeah.
You're not going to look like you're there. You're civil, focused. You're listening to what they have to say. You're confident about what you're saying. And that's a great skill to have in this in this time. And our generation we already have like those negative stereotypes where we're bad socially. That's already a thing.
Right.
What's the
And
most
I'm still attached to that about
stereotypes?
being a millennial. I'm still a millennial.
We,
so.
Yeah, we are. Yeah,
I'm in
we're
the
totally
middle.
getting
I'm almost in
dogged.
the middle of the millennials.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you're still in there as well.
And we're also like, usually the term millennial is often paired up with being emotional, being offended, being the victim,
Yeah.
and always taking it in and just
Yeah,
suffering.
taking everything personally.
Taking it personally, and you just need to voice your opinion. I think people are they're getting the negativity and they're absorbing it and keeping it inside instead of throwing it back out into the world. And I guess I'm using a lot of metaphors, but you know what I'm
you
saying.
got a good point. We just talked about listening. That puts yourself in someone else's shoes. If your reality inside of yourself is real, because again, the focus is inward. You're living in your own reality on the inside. That's where the anxiety and depression and all these other things come about. So those aren't good things. You don't recommend anxiety disorders or depression to a friend. So they're in a way they're not good. Now, there's a whole reason why we have them. It's good to have anger because sometimes you need to be angry about something. You need to be anxious about something that puts you on the alert. But that's another conversation. But one thing about the focus on the inward, though, is you begin when you're creating your own world, you cut yourself off from other people. And you talked about how people get so offended. Well, because the inward reality actually is the reality. And when you confront that, you're confronting a reality to them, and that becomes personal. However, that there is an alternative to
Inward is in how? Like, what do you mean inward?
Well, you have your own world that's going on inside of you. So if someone confronts that,
inner
and that's
world.
your comfort world, and there's no way out of it because you don't. And then this is the way out of this, because there's a lack of engagement with people. Everyone knows that in politics right now, when it comes to talking, those are the two things you don't talk about: politics and religion, because people cannot listen to each other. That's why. That is really why, because no one will genuinely listen to someone and think, maybe I don't fully agree to this person, but maybe there's something or some experience or some story that person's had that I haven't had. But guess what? You have to have empathy. You have to look that person in the eye. You have to put yourself in that person's footsteps to be able to do that. And then that bubble inside of you begins to pop, and that's how you get out of that. And then you don't become so offended. You realize that reality is much bigger than the inside of you. I don't like using the cliche, the world doesn't revolve around you. Now that's true, but it's become such a cliche to where it's like you think of like the most narcissistic person on planet Earth like that. But that's too extreme. People do create these realities inside of themselves, and that's why it's become exaggerated now, because no one wants to listen to someone else. No one wants to think that they could possibly be wrong about one little thing or something else, and that's because of the lack of empathy, the lack of listening, the lack of engagement with people. And so what I see is, technically this has always been happening because people are people, but I think it's becoming exaggerated by what we're talking about right now. Is people don't want to keep eye contact. People don't want to sit at a table and put the dang phone down and turn it on silent. And I have to work really hard for that to happen. And that thing's going on silent. And I have to tell people when they make phone calls to me that my phone's on silent because I'm with someone else. They have my focus. Now, I can feel my phone. You call me 3 times, it's an emergency. I'll go pick it up. But it's got to be an emergency because my focus is on that person. That's the greatest love I can show to that person, because if you were in their place, whoever's calling me or texting, I would do the same for you. Now, I don't do that perfectly, but that's something I shoot for. Every time I'm around people, when we're eating out on Sundays, I try to put that phone down and not look at it. Unless there's maybe I'm looking something up really, really quickly that has to do with the conversation, but not scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through Facebook, or scrolling through my text message, because people text me and stuff when I'm sitting down, whether it's a family member, maybe it's about the podcast, maybe it's about youth ministry, teenagers, important text, not, oh, hey, how you doing? Usually they're more important than that. But again, that crutch could be used in those situations instead of refining out my engagement with people, refining out my listening skills, listening to other people, keeping that engagement with the eye contact. And I think that's one thing that is missing, is that engagement with people. So many people are lonely, and I think it's because of that lack of engagement with people. And all I can tell people is, maybe you're in that state. Maybe you have a hard time with that and you don't know where to start. But I think some of these are where you can start. You can build off the foundation of, let me keep some eye contact. Let me slowly begin to work on not thinking of the next thing I want to say, but how can I put myself in that person's footsteps and listen to them? And I guarantee you, I promise you. If I'm wrong, put it in the comments. If you listen to someone and engage what they're talking about, you will always have something to talk about. There's no doubt. And if you get better at open questions too, those 3 things, better at open questions, not a yes or no or very quick questions, like, how are you doing? How did you feel when that happened? Or what were you thinking when that happened? Or what about this? And that's another conversation. Those aren't conversations when you engage with someone and you're trying to talk about yourself, as in, hey, let me start a conversation about this is what happened to me, or this happened this week, or that also hurts conversations. And then again, of focusing on this reality, not engaging with the other person, their reality. There's a quote by St. Francis that's always stuck with me. Let me see if I can say it right. It says, O divine master, help me to seek to console other people. Not help me to not be consoled, but to console. Help me to not be listened to, but to listen. Not to be loved, but to love. And St. Francis knows that when you console others, you listen to others, you love others, you will get it back. You're sowing listening. You're sowing. Consoling is like giving compassion when you're going through a hard time. That's consoling, helping them and being with them. You give that, you'll get it back in that conversation. You give listening, you're going to get it back. You give love, you're going to get it back. And that's another thing too. And I just leave that in the context of when you're engaging and talking with people. Are you focusing on what you want to talk about, or you want to talk about what you steering? So I could not be listening to you, Javen, and I could be thinking about what I really want to talk about. And then usually there's like an awkward, like, why did he break that conversation? It's kind of like, why couldn't we take what was in what you were saying and then kind of keep moving with it? Well, it's because I have my own agenda in the conversation. But if I'm listening to you, I'll catch certain cues because I'm not thinking about what I want to say. I'm listening to you, and I'll get certain cues on things that you said in your conversation, which reminds you I'm listening to you. And then also we're keeping what you're saying. Again, engagement. That's engagement. That's a dialogue, not a monologue. That's the defining thing between a monologue and a dialogue. Most people do monologues. They just talk and about what they want to talk about, and then they interrupt the other person, and then they steer the conversation away from what they're saying, and no one's actually listening. No one's actually engaging. But when you do that, like, I feel connected with you. I feel engaged in this conversation. I know that you're listening to me, and I'm trying my best to listen to you as well. And those are the most fulfilling conversations too. I've had conversations where it's like, I didn't get anything out of that. I didn't feel connected to them. Like, it was...
You're gaining that trust too.
You're gaining the trust, right?
Trust is important.
Yeah.
You're not going to tell somebody something that's private to you, or maybe you're feeling if they're looking like they don't care, if they're not looking you in the eye, if they're only talking about themselves. Now, talking about yourself, that goes into a ballpark of insecurity.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of stuff that needs to be straightened out. But
like you said, you're caring for someone when you're listening to them.
You're caring for somebody, and ultimately, it's easy to carry a conversation when you're caring. Like, I remember when I was younger, I didn't ever used to incorporate, hey, how are you, and actually mean it, not just saying it, actually meaning, hey, how are you? And now I try to do it really often, because not only is it easier to talk to people, but it also, you're caring for that person. And back when I was a little younger, the way I would start a conversation is, I mean, I'm not proud to say this, but I would usually bring up something negative so we can both kind of relate to it and be like, oh yeah, I hate such and such, or this place, or yeah, or maybe I'd bring up a joke or something because I didn't know how to start a conversation. And I'd like, you know how somebody will enter a room and the first thing they'll do is check you? I feel like that's like a default thing to do. Yeah,
I remember that when I was on the football team.
It's like a default thing to do when you don't know what else to say. It's like, whoa, red shirt alert.
Yeah.
Say something like that to you, and it's like...
It wasn't even like a good check either.
Yeah, it wasn't even a good check.
It was like, can't you say anything else? But I think that's the point, is that you can't say anything else. Go do that in the job force. Go do that when you go to school. See what happens when your manager says about that. But you won't say that because you don't know what else to say now. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where the issues come in. Is like what you're talking about. You didn't practice.
And if you say, hey, how are you? And they don't want to respond, it's like, oh, okay. I put myself out there. I had the confidence to start a conversation. You were the little beta that didn't want to answer. And instead of feeling rejected, you need to feel kind of uplifted from that, because you actually put yourself out there. You took the risk, and they chose to turn it down. So who's the bigger man?
Right. Or who's more confident in themselves?
Yeah, who's more confident? It shows a lot. Those sociable people, they're confident in themselves. They know no matter if somebody rejects them, if somebody turns them down, if somebody doesn't want to talk to them, they're all right. They can go on and talk to somebody else.
Yeah.
And...
yeah, job force,
very important in the workplace. Dating,
confidence.
Yes, you've got to be confident.
I mean, we're definitely talking to guys,
because girls can sense when you're not confident.
That's one of their top 5, at least, is confidence in finding someone. I mean,
they're not
gonna, huge.
I don't want a little.
They're gonna want someone who's gonna be, who's gonna be. They couldn't protect their family. They don't seem to have any passions in life, and they're gonna fight for what they believe in, or fight for what's right.
Yeah, and those guys that are like that. they're going to catch the eye of that girl who's with that guy that's not doing that.
Yeah.
And then you're going to find yourself in a spot that you may be getting cheated on.
Yeah, you're right. Or you don't at least want the prospect of her looking outside the relationship because you don't want to stand strong and be confident. And she's like, oh, well, that guy is confident. Well, if you're confident in yourself, guess what? If that girl leaves you and you're confident in yourself and who you are and what you want to be in life, she doesn't want to do with that. It's the wrong girl then. Then you can be confident. You can be, again, confident in yourself that was the wrong girl and she needs to be hitting the road.
She's not right for you,
She's
man.
not the right girl, man. If she was going to cheat on you and you're confident in yourself, you're passionate about what you're about, and she's not down on board with you and who you are and what you're going to be, then you're confident in her leaving, and you don't have to be very anxious and very, if it's something I did, or come back to me, don't leave me, and then or so angry at that guy, it's just like, I need to get him, and you don't have to worry about that. It's like, I'm gonna wait for the girl. I'm confident in who I am, and that girl who loves me for who I am and who I want to be, I'm gonna find her because I'm putting those vibes out.
And if you look that girl in the eyes, and if you're having a conversation, a connection, you can tell if it's real. You can tell if she doesn't like you, or if she may be having a little side game. She may be cheating on you.
Yeah.
And being a good communicator, being able to say what you're feeling, that helps the relationship for both ends.
It's called emotional intelligence.
Exactly.
It's huge.
And that, it takes time to grow that.
Yeah. You don't naturally have it. You got to train it.
Yep, exactly. And you gotta build that trust, have that eye contact, all great pillars of just social success.
Yeah. Not just in one realm of life. It's a lot of different areas of life.
A lot of different realms.
Emotional intelligence is really correlated with your meaning and satisfaction in life. Intelligence has a lot to do with your IQ when you do IQ tests about maybe how good you are in a job or something like that. Emotional intelligence, it shows your satisfaction in relationships and within your job and things like that, which is huge, which intelligence doesn't. You can be an intelligent person and be the most unsatisfied, unmeaningful life on planet Earth, even though you're so smart. It doesn't matter in that area. But emotional intelligence, you work.
You have to build that up. You're not just
up.
born with emotional intelligence.
Right.
You have to go through things to learn how things are done. That was poorly worded, but you know what I'm saying.
I know what you mean. You need to have those experiences. You need to fail. You need to take risks in those different areas of life. Just like I'd like to see a 2-year-old pass a quantum mechanics test. You got to fail along the roads to get to that area where he can maybe take that test one day. But guess what? There's a lot of failures. There's a lot of building up to there. And I guess that's the positive thing, is that emotional intelligence, you can work on it. You can build it. IQ, it's been shown it's pretty, you get what you get biologically.
I don't like IQ. I feel like it's a mental barrier that you're putting. It's a stop sign in your brain. You can't go any further because this is your IQ. I don't like that. I feel like it's a negative thing to know. I wouldn't want to know my IQ. Like, what if it's bad? Like,
I think I took one some years ago.
That would lower your self-esteem. I don't care about, and that's another thing I want to say real quick.
Yeah.
Grades, if you have bad grades, that does not mean that you are not intelligent. I don't think at all that you are dumb because you made an F on the test. In no way. I think that the test, it just wasn't your priority.
Yeah, that's true. And I think you could succeed in school and not be the top IQ person. I think that's very possible.
Exactly.
I think. And from what I've observed and what I've gone through.
And you can connect with the teacher better if you have those emotional skills.
Yeah, eye contact.
You can get what they're saying better.
Actually
and
listening. No one ever said when you're an intelligent person,
and
you're
then
listening.
you can look smarter. That's what I've tried to incorporate, and it's helped a little for me.
Yeah. I mean, if you're in college and you're a student who engages with the professor, there's like a twinkle in the professor's eyes.
They love that.
They're like, oh, this
Especially
person
when you're
is above the cut.
sitting up straight and giving them eye contact, because they're used to people just sitting there with their head down.
Yep. Looking on their phone possibly, or sleeping.
Yeah, but when you're sitting up straight and you're looking them straight in the eye,
maybe nodding a little bit, maybe adding some verbal cues that you're listening to them. Sometimes I notice that they'll look at you more because they're actually ready to engage and talk with you. And I notice they ask me more questions because they know when they ask me a question, it's not going to be an awkward thing for them with someone else who's like half asleep over there. And they're like, I'm not going to ask them a question because it's going to be awkward. And they'll be like, I think that was good. I've heard that a couple times. It's like, oh, that was very engaging. But, if you're actually listening and you're having some eye contact and you're maybe nodding your head a little bit, maybe you're like,
It shows that everything's okay. When I was doing a speech last year, or actually this year, 2019, I was doing a speech for public speaking, and I noticed it's not that scary to look people in their eyes in the audience. Like, I didn't have to look above them. If people are smiling and nodding their head, you feel security in that. And I immediately felt comfortable once I saw that. And sure, I started off with a joke or had to make them laugh to set the tone right. Yeah. But when somebody is smiling and nodding at you, you feel comfortable in what you're saying, and you feel like that person, you can trust them, and you feel a sense of security.
Yeah, that's a good word. That's a good word that we haven't mentioned yet. A sense of you feel safe, secure with this person and engaging with them. That's a really good point, because there are some people I have a conversation with, and I know that they are so socially disconnected. Everything that I talk to them with is awkward, it's weird, and it makes me a little anxious because I know that I don't know what's going to happen. I think that's the thing. We fear what we don't know. And when I engage with people who are socially dysfunctional, I don't know what they're going to say. Maybe they'll say nothing. Then I'm, you know what I mean? I'm always on high alert of what am I going to do if they don't say anything? What am I going to do if they say something awkward? They keep saying things that are awkward. They're not keeping eye contact. They're saying one-liners all the time. Like, I feel like I'm the only person.
All the work.
I'm doing the bulk, and that's a good word too. Work. It's work listening to people.
It is work to listen and just have a conversation. Like, I'm having to apply myself to talk to you right now.
Yeah.
I can't just sit back and yeah.
That's cool.
Maybe, yeah, man.
Yeah. Oh no! Light a cig.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Oh man.
It's no fun to talk to somebody like that. Like, somebody just says a yes man. Nobody likes a yes man.
Just constantly just saying something, but they're not actually listening.
And you get respect as a guy. You get respect when you voice your opinion.
Yeah.
And I've been watching Breaking Bad recently. I picked it back up, and I want to rewatch the series. And I've been analyzing these things, and what I noticed is, okay, so Walter White and Jesse Pinkman, they're the main characters, and they're making drugs. And they're trying to sell these drugs to some...
drugs in a trailer, isn't it?
Yeah,
like
it's like meth.
Oh, gosh.
And they're trying to sell this to this drug lord named Tuco, because he's going to distribute it, and he's going to...
I like that name.
And so Jesse is the first one to introduce the product, and when he goes in, he has a very beta attitude about it. Like, he's like... He's kind of flinching, head down, hands in pockets, not making eye contact. He's not confident. And guess what happens to him?
What?
He gets robbed of his meth and beat up, and he gets thrown out, and he's sent to the hospital. Well, the main dude, Walter White, he hears about this.
He's the older guy,
and he's
right?
like,
bald?
Yeah, and he has cancer. And that's the whole reason he's doing it, so he can provide for his family. So he says, Tuco took our supply and beat you up. No, I won't stand for this. And I guess he has a confidence because he knows he's about to die. So he goes in there, and he goes up to Tuco, and he says, and he looks him straight in the eye, standing up straight, and he refuses to sit down. And he stands over, it's like the top floor of this building. He's led up there, checked for weapons, and then he goes in, and he demands to get 20. He demands to sell the first batch, and then get 20,000 for troubles. And the dude's like, "Are you crazy?" And then he threatens him, but he comes in like real strong, looks him in the eye, and Tuco notices this, and he listens to what he has to say, and he doesn't take advantage of him.
Yeah,
and that's important for guys, just to have that coming in strong, saying what you want, saying you can't do this to me, and having that strong eye contact, and being a fighter, not a flighter.
You just brought up a story of mine from Sports Authority with that conversation. It had trickles all over of what you were talking about. Obviously, it wasn't Kyle wasn't his previous job a drug
a meth
lord.
Story.
Yeah, not.
Yeah,
Kyle wasn't a drug lord in a previous job. Yeah, but so I was in Sports Authority, and I'm a youth intern at the point. I'm a youth minister at this point, and getting Sunday mornings off is pretty important for someone who's working with the youth as a youth intern, working towards being a youth minister, being there on Sundays. And my boss said it wasn't available. I could have accepted that. I could be very beta about it and just, well, that's just the way the universe is or something, and whatever.
Being the victim.
I tried.
You're not the victim.
Yeah,
here.
I could have played victim and said, well, I put it in the calendar. What can I do then? And now I'm anxious during this. I don't like it, obviously. So I need to be open. It's not like, here comes Kyle, he's ready. He's like, what's his name? Oh, just naturally. I mean, I was very, well, I can't accept this. Something has to happen. I'm very nervous about it. I'm praying about it a lot. I'm nervous. I'm fearful, if I'm honest, during the midst of this. But inside of me, you got to do something. You got to take action during this. And so I started asking around, because apparently what he said was it's not available. So I started asking around, started digging. And one of the so that was a store manager said this. Another manager says, dude, I've been wanting that shift. Dude, I'll take that in a heartbeat. And I'm like, whoa. He said, I'm not going to say any names, but he said, the store manager said, no one was available. No one wanted that.
So he was doing that to you because you,
right?
So he was picking on you.
And again, I could be, oh, well, woe's me. That happened to me.
Yeah,
I'm a victim.
Boo hoo. He's so mean.
I could have put in my 2 weeks and been like, that's it. That's just what I have to do. Just leave my job. That's the only thing I can do. I could have been like that. And I know a lot of people would just, as soon as one little thing blurps up, it's,
I quit.
Yeah, I quit.
Ghosting.
I'm out of here. But I said I was going to be committed to this job, and I was going to stick with it the best that I can. And I told, I was about to say some names. I told the store manager that I want to see him and talk with him, and he didn't want to answer over the radio because we use radios. I said, and then I couldn't that day because he ended up leaving early or something. I could have, again, been like, well, whatever, I tried. But then the next day I kept at it, and I kept at it. It may have been the next day or the day after that. And I was like, you got to talk. And he's like, can you say it over the radio? So again, I could have been like, oh, I'm going to shy away. And I didn't say it over the radio, but I was like, no, I need to talk to you in person. This is pretty critical with my job, and it needs to be talked about. And even when I went in the office, he wanted to kind of not talk about it and just act like whatever, get out of here as soon as we can and stuff like that. Putting off vibes of let's not talk or whatever. And I could have, been like, oh, I was just, I had an issue with some. I told him I was, let's blurb that out. Yeah, I'll find that. We're gonna blurb out his name.
Well, I mean, boo hoo if he hears it.
No, I don't want to.
I
don't want to put people on the spot like that. I don't want to be in a bad story either. But I was talking with him, and I told him straight up. I said, you said that no one had that shift. You said no one wanted that shift. And I said, so-and-so, this manager said he'll take it and he wants it. And I said, whether or not you knew about it, he said he'll take it in a heartbeat. And then I said, here's the thing too. I'm not unwilling to work on Sundays. I said, I will take the afternoon shift, whatever it takes, because I said that it's important to me. I value it. And I said, the thing is whether I value this job, Sports Authority, over me being with people I consider family. I said, I'll tell you which one's going to win out. And I said, I will end up putting up my 2 weeks at one point, because I said, I'm not I value that more. And I said, it's your choice on what you want to do. I said, if you want to keep me on the force and not have to hire someone else, then we're going to have to negotiate something here. And if we're not, I'm going to end up at one point putting in my 2 weeks, because I'm not going to go not having Sundays off at all. I said, I've already gone a month. I said, I'm not doing any more than that. I said, by next month, nothing starts to change. 2 weeks are going in, and I'll be respectful by putting my 2 weeks. I won't just leave like some dinglings will. I said, I'll give you that respect. I'll give you that too. But I said, something's going to happen. And he looked at me, and he was very silent for a minute. He was not expecting that. And believe it or not, I found out that he had an issue with Christianity and religion, because he starts talking like that. He's like, yeah, I have an issue with places, and they don't work Sundays and stuff like that, and they're religious. And I said, maybe you do have an issue with that. I said, man, I've had issues with people who go to church too. I'm going to give you that. I may know what kind of vibes you're talking about that people put off, very religious and self-righteous, and look at me, and you're going to hell. I said, I'm with you there. Mm-hmm. But I said, I value going to church and those people who believe. And I said, no matter what you believe or what you think about it, I said, what I think and what I've experienced over time, and the witness that I have with God, I said, I'm very blessed in where I am. And I said, I'm not someone like that. But I said, regardless, we got to do something. And finally, he was kind of silent again. And he's like, we'll maybe get something down. I said, no, I said, leaving this office, there has to be a plan. And he says, okay, I'll go talk to so-and-so. I was like, that's a good start. Because I said, nothing starts happening next month.
Alpha Kyle,
well,
yeah.
But here's the thing. I don't give myself a lot of credit for it, because during
that's hard to do. I
was fearful the whole time. My heartbeat was going crazy the whole time. My palms were probably sweaty during it. I don't feel like there's a lot of, oh, look what Kyle did, because I was fearful during the whole time. I was anxious the whole time. I didn't want to have that conversation. And I guess I only tell that story because you can't have that conversation if you're fearful, if you're anxious. I'm probably one of the most fearful and anxious person with confronting people. And I think if you're at least where I am, or even you're probably even better than where I'm at. And I think you can handle that. And those are real life situations that you go through. I could have felt like I was being pushed down and oppressed in my job, and become bitter, could have become resentful. And then you know what? I would have gone back at him in some kind of way. I would have gone back at him. And that's just a natural thing, whether it was conscious or unconscious, whether it's, I'm not going to go in that day, take this, and just, hang up phone calls on him or something like that, or give passive aggressive type things back to him. And that's one of the things, is that you're straight up with him. And you know what? He consciously was probably better off after that conversation, because I was, you're straight up with someone.
And you communicated, and you told him what you had a problem with, and you told him what you were about. You wanted to go to church on Sunday.
Yeah. That's what I value. That's who I am. We don't have to debate it. You don't have to sleep at night and dream about what all this is. You don't have to be anxious about it all the time. You don't have to wonder about it. Here it is.
When you're better explaining things, you can get a point across better. You can ultimately sway someone to your side by having an explanation. You can't just say a statement, I don't want to work Sunday. I can't work Sunday.
Right, and then you come across as a jerk.
Yeah, and then they'll be like, well, I'm going to schedule him anyway. I don't care if he says he can't work Sundays.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you have an explanation, explain why this hurts you, explain why this person's offending you, everybody will be able to connect better. And just that communication, voicing your opinion and voicing what you have a problem with is something that will help you get better with social skills.
And as you continue to do it, you'll build the confidence and the courage to be able to do those things more and more, and you'll become more and more confident.
And your life will get better because you're correcting things. You're correcting things that, hey, man, I don't stand for this.
Standing for things in your house one day as a parent, standing up for things in school with someone else, standing up to your friends, or maybe you're in ministry, standing up to someone in ministry. That's one of the big things that I do. And you can't be a jerk, but at the same time, you want to be confident when you say in your expectations. And you can do the same thing in a dating relationship. We talked about boundaries. How much confidence do you have to take to talk about sexual boundaries in a conversation, having that if you don't have any confidence, you will not have that conversation. You will not do it. You won't. I don't see how you could possibly
You'll get walked over.
Yeah, you'll get walked over.
And in some relationships, I mean, I've seen this. I've seen where, now, I'm on the guys' team, obviously. I'm a guy. And when I see another guy getting pulled around on a leash, that's kind of embarrassing.
I know what you're talking about.
When they're getting, like, controlled by their girlfriend, they're letting the girlfriend make all the decisions, control their life, and they're just like, well, I mean, yeah, I don't really like it, but, I mean, it's
what can I do?
Yeah, what can I do? It's just like
she may leave me.
Yeah, it's this is
the opposite happens too. We got to be fair. I've seen the other side. I've seen
the other side.
Women.
You've got to be.
That too.
You've got to have like. She needs her domain and you need your domain.
Yeah.
You can't control each other's lives.
You got to be you and express that without being a jerk.
Yeah, you can't.
But that takes practice though. Being able to explain who you are. It takes confidence, and it also takes courage to then be vulnerable without being a jerk. Because when you're being a jerk, you're putting on defensive mechanisms of, I'm not going to open up my heart to you because I don't want you again. And then there's a trust barrier. If you can't be vulnerable in a moment, then that person says, I can't trust you. And then their fight and flight complex goes in. So they're either in fight and flight. They will either leave the conversation literally or metaphorically, or they will fight you. And we all know what fighting looks like in conversation. It can get very
offensive,
attacks,
very emotional,
punching in walls. It can get very violent at times. But again, that's another area in life where if you start building that up, you don't have to worry about that in a marriage. If you start in dating now, you don't have to worry about in the marriage of when you confront people, you do it confidently without being a jerk in that moment. Now, one thing I wanted to, because we've been talking about a lot of what we can work on when it comes to these things with social media, and I think it was very important that we went over those. I think that's good because people need to know where to start. It's not just putting down the phone and turning it off. There has to be more to that and where to start. But
we didn't even mention likes or followers.
Yeah, we didn't even mention that. We didn't even mention what you actually post. And why you post things.
Exactly.
We didn't even talk about that yet.
Now, this is a realm right here.
Yeah. I'm almost thinking in a way that, I don't know, do you think we should do a part 2 with that? Do you think that really warrants a part 2? With the photos and the likes and why you actually post things? Because I feel like we really actually could. And that may be a nice little teaser for next time.
If you want to end it on this note?
I kind of like that because we'll give justice to a part 2, I think.
Yeah.
And we're teasing what we do next.
What
do you think about that? Yeah, I think that's a nice teaser. We could definitely go off that next time.
Okay.
Yeah, you agree with that? Do that?
I'm cool with that.
All right. Thank you.
If y'all are cool with that.
Yeah. and by the way, if there's anything else that we missed, because we probably missed something about social media, go ahead and tell us down below something people can work on to be better socially. Maybe better ways to use social media as a tool. If you have any thoughts and opinions, something to tell us or other people, you can put that in the comments. If you like this, what we're doing, you think it's good and you'd like other people to hear about it, hit a like for us. If you want to continue getting it, subscribing. And if you want to get the alerts with this, hit the bell button because it's the only way you'll get it unless you intentionally search for it, which I don't do personally on YouTube. I'll miss it if I don't hit the bell. It'll be like, oh, they posted. Oh, I missed that. And so if you want to get the continual alerts, do that. But remember, we're on Spotify. Remember, we're on iTunes. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on Google Podcasts. Because if you want to listen to it, I personally listen to these. And I like that because if it's an hour, I can go ahead and pause it. I can listen to it in a car. I can listen to it getting ready in the day. Some people listen to it while they're working out. So instead of sitting down for an hour on a video, I personally don't do that.
Yeah, I don't do that either.
Do the same thing.
Yeah. I would rather listen to it on Spotify. I take more when I listen to things and I'm not staring at something. Because if I watched our podcast right now, I would get distracted if I like made a funny face or if you did something funny.
Yeah.
Or I would start laughing, and I wouldn't take in what's being said, and I wouldn't be in the moment. But I like it when it's in my ears and I'm doing some work, and I feel like I'm a part of a conversation.
And you're using those listening skills pretty hardcore.
Yeah,
That's the
you
only
want to
thing you
exercise
have.
your listening skills.
Yeah, we just tied that in, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah, a little pat on the back for ourselves.
Pat on the
yeah,
I'll let you pat yourself.
yeah.
But yeah, thank you for joining in today, and we hope you learned something, as me and Javen did through this conversation. And I guess we're gonna pick up on. We'll see you on social media part 2. So we'll see you then.